In a quiet, cluttered laboratory tucked away on the outskirts of town, Professor Elias Thorne was about to redefine what it meant to see the world. For decades, scientists believed the visible spectrum of light held no more secrets, until now. After years of experimentation, the breakthrough came by accident. A slight calibration error in his prism revealed something extraordinary, a color no human eye had ever seen. It wasn't just unseen, it was invisible. Elias couldn't stop there. What if this new color could be harnessed, used to bend light itself? He designed a prototype, a sleek, futuristic spacesuit embedded with panels that could shift into this invisible spectrum. And when it did, it disappeared. With the suit complete, Elias needed to test its limits. First, he pressed the activation button. As the suit shifted into the invisible color, his reflection vanished from the mirror. He walked through a solid wall moments later, like a ghost. But invisibility wasn't the suit's only trick. By aligning with the invisible color's unique properties, it could move at unimaginable speeds, faster than light itself. The professor's test runs took him to the edges of the atmosphere and back in mere seconds. However, the color had unintended consequences. During one test, the professor found himself slipping into what he could only describe as another dimension. Shapes and beings flickered around him, entities that seemed to notice him, even as he remained invisible. Elias realized his discovery wasn't just about science, it was about existence itself. This unseen color wasn't merely invisible, it was a bridge to other realities. The implications were staggering: invisibility, instant travel, and perhaps even contact with other dimensions. News of the invention spread quickly. A government agency approached Elias with a challenge: retrieve a top-secret artifact stolen by a rogue faction and hidden in an impenetrable vault. With no time to waste, Elias donned the suit for its first real mission. The mission was a success, but Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching him. The invisible color, he realized, had unlocked more than he intended. It wasn't just a color, it was a doorway. As Elias stood in his lab, holding the artifact and staring into the prism, he knew his journey had only begun. The unseen color wasn't just an invention, it was an invitation to explore the unknown. The question was, how far would he dare to go? The world had been changed forever, but for Professor Elias Thorne, this was only the beginning of a story that would rewrite humanity's understanding of reality itself. Subscribe for the next chapter in this groundbreaking journey. Our story begins in the eccentric laboratory of Professor Elias Thorne, a brilliant yet quirky scientist who has just perfected his greatest invention, a spacesuit with the power to turn invisible and phase through walls. One day, Professor Elias receives a desperate call from the Museum of Rare Wonders. Their most prized artifact, a glowing crystal orb, is stolen and hidden inside an impenetrable vault. Only the professor's incredible suit can get it back. Determined to help, the professor dons his spacesuit and sets out under the cover of night to the heavily guarded vault. His mission: recover the artifact and return it safely to the museum. As the guards patrol the area, Professor Elias presses a button on his suit. Instantly, the suit and the professor vanish into thin air, becoming completely invisible. The professor reaches the vault's entrance, a massive steel door with intricate locks. But with a deep breath, he walks straight through it, his suit phasing effortlessly through the solid metal. Inside, the professor finds the crystal orb glowing softly on a pedestal. But just as he reaches for it, an alarm triggers, and the room is flooded with red lights and robotic guards. Thinking fast, the professor presses the button on his suit again, turning invisible. He carefully navigates through the guards, phasing through walls and dodging laser beams as he makes his daring escape. Outside the vault, the professor encounters a swarm of drones, chasing him through the facility. He pushes his suit to its limits, running faster than ever, with the drones hot on his trail. After an exhilarating escape, the professor returns the crystal orb to the Museum of Rare Wonders. The director is overjoyed, and the artifact is safely restored to its rightful place. Back in his lab, Professor Elias reflects on his adventure. But as he places the suit on its stand, the crystal orb begins to glow mysteriously. What secrets could it hold? The professor knows one thing for sure: his adventures are just beginning. What do you think the crystal orb's secret could be? And what other adventures await Professor Elias? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for more incredible stories. In the vast expanse of space, where stars twinkle like diamonds on velvet, a mysterious SOS signal breaks through the silence. Our story begins with Professor Elias Thorne, a brilliant scientist with a secret, A spacesuit that can make him invisible and let him travel faster than the speed of light. Determined to investigate the distress call coming from near a black hole, Professor Elias gears up. His heart races as he presses the suit's glowing button, turning invisible, and zips into the stars at light speed. The professor slows as he nears the black hole, a swirling vortex of light and darkness, its edges shimmering with distorted stars. Floating dangerously close is a damaged spaceship, sparks flying from its engines. Using his suit's communication system, Professor Elias reaches out. This is Professor Elias Thorne. Who's aboard? A shaky voice responds, I'm Commander Mira. My ship was pulled here by the black hole's gravity. The engines are dead. Please help me. Thinking quickly, the professor devises a plan. He'll use the suit's invisibility to phase through the black hole's gravity field and tow the escape pod out. But time is running out. Mira's pod is losing power fast. With a deep breath, the professor phases into invisibility and plunges toward the black hole. The crushing gravity distorts time and space, but his suit's technology shields him just enough to latch onto Mira's pod. As the pod teeters on the edge of the black hole's event horizon, Professor Elias activates the suit's light speed capabilities. With a flash, they shoot away from the black hole just as the pod's systems begin to fail. The two land safely on a nearby moon base. Commander Mira steps out, her face glowing with gratitude. You saved my life, Professor. How can I ever repay you? Elias chuckles. Just keep exploring the stars, Commander. That's thanks enough for me. Later, as the professor prepares to return home, Mira points to a glowing fragment she retrieved from the black hole. This was pulled in with me. It seems alive. The professor realizes it could be a clue to the invisible color's origins. As the professor rockets back to Earth, he can't help but wonder, what secrets does the universe still hold? And what dangers might come from unlocking them? One thing's for sure, his journey is far from over. Join us next time for another adventure with Professor Elias Thorne and his extraordinary suit. The universe is full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. In a quiet, candle-lit study, surrounded by dusty books and glowing gadgets, there lived a brilliant but peculiar professor. His greatest invention, a suit unlike any other, one that could vanish into thin air. Tonight, his creation would face its ultimate test, breaking into the unbreakable vault. The vault, hidden deep beneath a city skyline, was rumored to be impossible to break into, but the professor wasn't one to back away from a challenge. Climbing into his suit, he activated its invisibility with a single click. The world shimmered as he disappeared into the night. The entrance to Vault X was guarded by lasers and cameras, but the suit made him invisible to all sensors. With a quick glance at his map, the professor slipped past the defenses and into the maze-like corridors of the vault. As the professor moved deeper, he encountered the first challenge, a pressure-sensitive floor. One wrong step would trigger alarms. With precision and the lightness of a feather, he leapt from one tile to another, navigating the dangerous path. In the next chamber, a massive screen lit up with a swirling array of colors. It was a code, one that only someone who understood the invisible spectrum could solve. The professor adjusted his helmet, allowing him to see the hidden patterns, and began decoding the puzzle. Finally, he reached the vault room. The door was an enormous circular slab of metal, etched with ancient symbols and glowing locks. The professor placed his hand on the suit's chest button. In a flash, he phased through the door, stepping into the most guarded room in the world. But the treasure wasn't unguarded. As the professor approached a strange artifact, at the center of the room, a mechanical guardian sprang to life. Its glowing eyes scanned the room, searching for intruders. Using the suit's speed, the professor dashed past the guardian, phasing through walls and floors as alarms blared. He clutched the artifact tightly, heart pounding as he raced to the surface. Back in his study, the professor examined the artifact. But as he held it up to the light, he realized it wasn't a treasure at all. It was a key to an even greater mystery. His adventures were far from over. What secrets could the artifact unlock? What mysteries awaited beyond Vault X? The professor had only just begun unraveling the invisible spectrum. Deep within a cluttered, cozy laboratory, where inventions buzz and whir, lives an old professor with a wild tuft of white hair and round glasses that seemed too big for his face. Today, he's about to show us something magical. A suit that makes him invisible. But wait, this isn't any ordinary invisibility. It's powered by a color no one can see. One day, as the professor tested his suit, a spark of energy zipped through his lab. The suit started glowing brighter and brighter. Before he could blink, poof, he found himself standing in a world that wasn't his own. The streets looked old, The building's unfamiliar. Where could he be? As the professor looked around, something strange happened. A boy ran straight toward him, but instead of stopping, he passed right through. That's when the professor realized he was invisible. Invisible and curious, the professor wandered until he spotted a small workshop. Inside, a young inventor was working on a peculiar contraption. The professor couldn't help but peek closer, and accidentally knocked over a wrench. The inventor spun around. "Who's there?" she asked. Could she sense him? The young inventor couldn't see the professor, but she could sense something strange in the air. She quickly grabbed a gadget, a color detector she'd been working on. When she turned it on, it glowed brightly, revealing the faint outline of the professor. "Who, or what, are you?" she asked. Once the professor explained everything, the young inventor's eyes lit up. "You're from the future," she exclaimed. Together, they marveled at the invisible color and the amazing suit. But just as they started experimenting, a loud bang shook the workshop. An older scientist, with a crooked smile and a mechanical arm, burst into the room. "I knew I sensed something extraordinary here," he bellowed. He wanted the suit for himself. "That color has power," he shouted. The professor and the young inventor had to act fast. The rival scientist snatched the suit and bolted, but the professor wasn't giving up. Using the young inventor's gadgets, they tracked the suit's unique energy signal, leading them to a glowing portal. Without hesitation, they leapt through. The portal took them to a strange, futuristic arena filled with dazzling colors. The rival scientist activated the suit, becoming invisible, but the professor and the young inventor used their wits, and a trick involving the color detector, to outsmart him. Thankful to have the suit back in their hands, the professor and the young inventor said their goodbyes. "This has been the adventure of a lifetime," said the professor, stepping back into the portal. As he returned to his lab, he smiled, wondering what other secrets the invisible color might hold. And so, the professor's incredible journey came to an end for now. But who knows? In the world of the hidden spectrum, adventures are never far away. Deep in his secret underground lab, Professor Elias Thorne was hard at work on his greatest invention, a suit that could turn invisible with just the press of a button. One day, after months of work, the suit was ready, but just as the professor was about to test it, he noticed something strange. The suit was gone. Professor Elias inspected the footprint closely. It glowed faintly, a trail left by someone, or something, wearing the suit. He followed it out of the lab and into the night. The glowing trail led Professor Elias to the bustling city, where the footprint suddenly disappeared into thin air. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw something, just a faint shimmer, moving on a rooftop. Quickly, Professor Elias pulled out his spectrum tracker, a device that could detect the invisible color. With a flick of a switch, the tracker lit up, revealing the thief, an unexpected face. The raccoon pressed the suit's button, disappearing again. It darted across rooftops, with Wilbur close behind, leaping over gaps and dodging obstacles. Thinking quickly, Professor Elias activated a holographic net from his spectrum tracker. It spread out like a glowing web, catching the raccoon mid-air and revealing the suit fully. Back in the lab, Professor Elias gently removed the suit from the raccoon. It turned out the little critter had been attracted by the suit's shiny buttons, and just wanted to play. Wilbur decided to make the raccoon his new lab assistant. He even built a tiny helmet and suit for it, this time without the invisibility feature. And so, Professor Elias and his new assistant embarked on many more adventures together, but he always kept a close eye on his invisible suit just in case. What will Professor Elias and his furry assistant discover next? Have you ever wondered what lies at the very edge of the universe? Hold on tight as we follow the adventures of Professor Elias Thorne, the brilliant and slightly quirky inventor, and his incredible invisible spacesuit. In a cozy workshop filled with glowing gadgets, humming machines, and stacks of scientific notes, Professor Elias made a groundbreaking discovery, a color invisible to the human eye. With his spacesuit activated, Professor Elias pressed a glowing button on his chest plate, making himself invisible. Moments later, he climbed into his sleek, bullet-shaped spaceship, ready to explore the farthest reaches of the universe. After traveling faster than the speed of light, Professor Elias finally arrived at the very edge of the universe. But what he found there left him speechless, a shimmering, glowing wall that seemed to ripple like water but felt as solid as stone. Curiosity brimming, the professor exited his spaceship, his suit rendering him invisible as he floated toward the wall. As he touched it, a strange humming sound filled his ears, and he saw faint shapes moving inside, like shadows from another world. Suddenly, a deep, echoing voice spoke from the wall. "Why have you come here, traveler? This boundary protects your world from ours." The professor, astonished, asked who they were and what lay beyond the wall. The wall granted him a brief glimpse of what lay beyond, a universe unlike anything he'd ever imagined, where gravity bent like ribbons and creatures floated through glowing rivers of light. But the voice warned, crossing the wall will disrupt the balance. As the professor gazed in awe, his invisible suit began to react with the wall, causing a small crack to appear. The voice grew urgent. Leave now, or the barrier will collapse. Realizing the danger, Professor Elias activated his suit and rushed back to his spaceship. Just as the wall began to destabilize, he rocketed away, leaving the edge of the universe behind. Back in his workshop, the professor pondered the wall's warning and the glimpse of the world beyond. Some mysteries, he said with a smile, are meant to remain untouched for now. But the professor couldn't help but wonder, what else lies out there, waiting to be discovered? Join us next time for another adventure with Professor Elias and his amazing invisible spacesuit. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join Professor Elias on his next journey. Imagine a world where danger lurks in the invisible. Today, we dive into the thrilling story of Professor Elias Thorne and his fight to save Earth from an unseen invasion. Welcome to Earth's Last Defense, Fighting the Colorless War. Our story begins in Professor Elias' lab, where he's testing his latest invention, the Spectra suit, a suit capable of blending into the invisible spectrum. But suddenly, a strange alert flashes on his screen. The invaders, beings from the invisible spectrum, have found their way to Earth. Their mission, to use their unseen abilities to take over our world. Only the Spectra suit can reveal them. To stop the invasion, Professor Elias needs to test the Spectra suit's full capabilities. But activating the suit's invisible color is tricky business. With the suit ready, Professor Elias heads to the city. But he's not alone for long. The invaders are already here. Using his suit's power, the professor reveals the invaders for the first time. What were once invisible shapes now appear as swirling, alien-like forms glowing with eerie colors. The invaders won't go down without a fight. A high-speed chase ensues, with the professor using his suit to outmaneuver the aliens. In the chaos, Professor Elias discovers the invaders' weakness, a frequency of light they can't tolerate. It's time to turn the tide. With the invaders on the run, the professor must launch one final attack to send them back to their dimension. With the invaders gone, Earth is safe once more. But the professor knows his work is far from over. But what's this? A new signal from the depths of space. Stay tuned for the professor's next adventure. If you love this adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter in Professor Elias' quest to uncover the unseen. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.
Welcome to a world of mystery, adventure, and the unknown. Meet Professor Elias Thorne, an eccentric but brilliant inventor who has discovered something no one else has, an invisible color that exists beyond what human eyes can see. But what happens when his discovery takes him somewhere he never expected to go? Join us on a journey to the dimension of shades. One rainy evening, Professor Elias stood in his lab, adjusting the final settings on his incredible spacesuit. It's time to see what the invisible color can really do, he whispered to himself. He pressed a glowing button, and with a flash, the suit and the professor disappeared into thin air. As the professor phased through the walls of his lab, he felt a strange pull. Suddenly, the air shimmered like liquid, and he found himself in a completely different world. This was the dimension of shades, a realm where the invisible color ruled. In this strange world, Professor Elias realized he wasn't alone. Strange beings with shimmering, almost transparent forms surrounded him. They seemed curious but cautious, communicating in waves of light that pulsed across their bodies. The beings showed him visions of their world. They warned him that the invisible color was not just a discovery, it was a force that held their dimension together. Any disruption could tear their world apart. With the crystal in hand, the professor returned to his lab, eager to study its secrets. He knew his journey to the dimension of shades was just the beginning. What other mysteries might the invisible color hold? Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. What would you do if you could explore an invisible world? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more amazing stories. In the heart of a cluttered, old laboratory, surrounded by shelves of glowing vials and spinning contraptions, Professor Elias Thorne stood gazing at his most remarkable invention. The suit, sleek, shimmering, and otherworldly, hung in the center of the room, its surface radiating with an invisible energy only he could sense. The professor had unlocked the power of invisibility with the suit's original color, but now, a second invisible color loomed on the edge of his calculations. If harnessed, it could make the suit, and the wearer, permanently unbound from physical reality. With trembling hands, the professor adjusted the suit's mechanisms. When he activated the second color, the lab dissolved into a kaleidoscope of hues, bending and warping as if reality itself were being rewritten. But something unexpected happened. The suit, now infused with the second color, began to pulse with a rhythm of its own. A voice, soft, curious, and echoing, spoke, "Why do you seek to control what is beyond control?" The suit, now alive, guided the professor into a realm beyond comprehension, a colorless void where time and space twisted endlessly. "This is where the unseen lives," the suit whispered, "and where you may remain if you're not careful." The suit revealed its true purpose, to bridge the unseen spectrum with the visible world. "Stay here," it urged, "and you will see all that others cannot. You will be free of limits, free of rules." But the professor hesitated, haunted by the consequences of such freedom. The professor clenched his fists. "Freedom without limits is chaos," he said firmly. "I must return and keep this power in check, for the sake of everyone." The suit dimmed, its voice softening. "Very well. But know this, the unseen will always call to you." In a flash, the professor was back in his lab. Everything seemed untouched, yet he felt the weight of his decision. The suit hung lifeless, its glow now reduced to a faint hum. The second color am I. And so, the professor's journey with the suit ended, for now. But the unseen spectrum holds secrets that no one can fully grasp. Would you dare to explore what lies beyond?